our guests, our followers are not seeing it every single time we post it. And we have to keep that in mind. So that is, that's something that I reiterate all the time. It doesn't matter what we like. It matters what's going to resonate and what our guests like.
Do it slow, beautiful,
You're a natural.
amazing. It's the last name, cacciatore, noodles, spaghetti. Just pretend it's spaghetti. Oh yeah.
With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, Director of Marketing at honeygrow, Amy DePaoli. Amy, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Never more unstoppable.
Dude, I'm psyched to have you here because I don't always get to talk to a director of marketing. I am outside of my comfort zone, but that is where growth happens, so I'm happy to be here. I'm not sure what questions I'm gonna ask you, but I'm sure they're going to pop into my head as you get going. This is going to be great. I can't wait to dive into your story, but let's get that motivational, inspirational, ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
100%. Since day one, my mantra has been one team, one dream.
One team, one dream.
And that's not only because I'm from Philadelphia and the Eagles follow that as well. Fly,
I'm a
Eagles,
Patriots
fly.
fan. I'll let that slide.
That's all right. I'm married to one of those.
But why one team, one dream?
So I think, as we'll probably get into in a few minutes, my background is largely with retailers that are about to explode. And there is no room for I in a situation like that. Everybody has to be on board working towards a common goal in order for the ultimate success.
What have you learned about creating one team and one dream? How do you do that?
I think it comes down to hiring the right team and finding the right characteristics in your team. And when I say one team, one dream, particularly at honeygrow, I feel like the whole company is really follows that mantra. And I've only been with honeygrow for a year, so I walked into a situation where that was already in place. But there's no sense of hierarchy. It's very much everybody knows their marching orders and is a huge contributor to the greater goal. And so, in my time at honeygrow, I have completely rebuilt the marketing team, which consists of a whopping 4 people. But in doing so, you look for certain qualities in candidates and how they're going to be able to contribute and to make sure that they do have that team mentality.
All right, I'm already taking notes because I have questions coming to my mind, but I'm going to hold off because I feel like I want to share your story first.
Sure.
And when we get into talking about your team later on, how you've organized that, what lanes people are in terms of marketing, and like how you structure that, I'm really interested in that. But where does it make sense to start sharing your story? I mean, you said that you started at 5 years old?
I started at 5 years old. I've
20
been doing
years
this
in the industry?
20 years. I started when I was 5. A genius.
That was a little joke that Amy told when I got here, we have a great sense of humor. But you've been in the industry for 20 years.
Yes.
You're not 25, though.
I'm not.
Okay.
No. You can do the math. I graduated from college, so add 20 years to that.
2001.
Yes, 2001, Providence College, go Friars.
No, I really dated you.
So I graduated from Providence College. I went to college thinking I wanted to do marketing, advertising, PR, kind of the whole package, which was a lot different 20 years ago.
Well, that's one of the things I'm curious about is like the world of marketing. Like if you wait a year, it's a completely different game.
100%.
It's month by month now, not even a year by year. It's so crazy how fast it changes. So it was a lot different then. How much of that is relative now, would you say?
I think I took one class that I still reference every single day, and it was consumer behavior. And that, no matter how marketing changes, at the end of the day, if you're working in a B2C environment, business to consumer, consumer-based retailers in my situation, at the end of the day, you're talking to someone who's making a personalized purchase. And it doesn't matter what marketing vehicle you use, you're still talking to an individual. And so their purchase patterns, their behavior is going to be the same. Exactly.
Yeah. People make emotional purchasing decisions, and I think that it's that part of marketing that appeals to me the most is is understanding the consumer and reverse engineering the message that the consumer wants.
Right.
and it can be kind of slimy sometimes too. Like they're some like, how do you find that balance of like persuasion versus manipulation?
Right, and it's tough. I
Yeah.
had a boss once tell me that the number one thing you can do in marketing is make your messaging benefit oriented, and I still think about that every day too. You have to. I wrestle with this idea, that you just said. How do you make it resonate with someone without making it slimy? And a really big thing in marketing right now is cause marketing. And
What does that say? It one more time.
cause marketing.
Like because.
No, cause like
a cause, like a
aligning
social,
with a charitable
yeah.
organization or social.
I call that conscious capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. So, but how do you do that? We at honeygrow or at my previous company, we have aligned with companies or with organizations that benefit children. And that's because of the pillars that we hold dear at the companies that I've been with. And we, for example, at honeygrow, a portion of our kids' meal is donated back to a Boston-based organization called Team Impact. And how do we get that message across without it's feeling slimy? Like, come in here and we'll donate $1. Well, that sounds great, right? But how do we get media out to get additional exposure and things like that? I mean, you have to frame it the right way so that people understand, that our customers understand what we're doing is something very positive when we're helping this great organization raise money to do other great things. But from a media perspective, when it comes to marketing something like that, how do we get media to come out? How do we make it a strong enough message and event worthy and timely and all these things that you learn in school from a PR perspective? How do you get media to come out and see that?
I'm writing it down right now. How do you get media to come out and see that? And I think this is like the strategy part of what you guys do, right? So I want to shelf that because I don't want to get too far ahead, but you're giving us gold already. So I'm really excited about this. So just real quick, help the listeners understand. This is totally my fault because I sent you down this path because I'm my ADD and curiosity. But just paint that picture, just quick, like the 30,000 foot airplane path to where you are today.
Sure. So I graduated from Providence College, like I said, in 2001, and quickly joined EB Games, which was then purchased by GameStop, which I'm sure many of your listeners are familiar with. And that was a really exciting experience. Dove right into consumer marketing. I had a role that was really encompassed. I was a low man on the totem pole for sure, but I had a great experience where it was baptism by fire. My manager and her manager both went on maternity leave, and I was thrown into this at holiday time and, really had to figure things out pretty quickly and on my own for a lot of it. That's the way I work best. That's how I learned I worked best that way. And then when they came back, I found myself feeling a little bit stifled being put back into the lower level role that I was hired for. So I stayed there for a while, got some really great experience, actually met the person who brought me on honeygrow when I was there. And so a lot of great connections, a really good vibe. Again, high growth. We grew substantially while I was there in the number of units. That was a time when the strip centers, the more lifestyle shopping centers, were really exploding, and the malls were still very active, but we had made our mark in most of the malls. And so now what did that expansion look like? And so we went into a lot of the strip centers. And then from there, I went to an advertising agency. I recommend that for all marketers to get that experience and seeing what happens at an agency. By nature, we often reach out to agencies for many projects, and it's a very different world. And it's something that I think I used to say you need to round out your resume that way, but I think it's very beneficial for marketers to understand how that side of the table works and vice versa.
Is that, and you don't have to get into this, but is that side of the table evolved? I'm assuming ads more now are digital than before, where they're probably more print.
Right. Yeah, it used to be much more print. Then, when I was at EB, we launched our e-commerce site, and I was like, what is that? E-commerce.
So advanced.
But yes, now everything, I would say 90% of marketing is digital in nature at this point. So So advertising agencies have definitely shifted into that area. I mean, there's plenty of agencies that specialize just in social media. You know, that's its own animal entirely. And there's agencies that deal with online reputation management, and as retailers, all businesses really have to deal with what do your online reviews look like, and how does that impact a person's purchase decision. So we're jumping around
it's
again.
all over the place. No, but the marketing is all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things. It's like, you know, it's more and more difficult today, I believe, to be a solopreneur restaurateur, right?
Yes.
Because there's so many things you got to be good at. Like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you could open a cafe and, you know, just do a really good job and have that good job, that four walls marketing be enough to bring people in. But with all the noise out there today and the competition and more restaurants per capita than ever before, you know, you can't, I think it's expected that your food's going to be good. Can you do all the other stuff? Right. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about, is all the other stuff. So just rifle through the experiences real quick.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're doing great.
Okay, so advertising agency, then I worked for a media company in Boston where I primarily worked on trade shows, and shifted then back to the Philadelphia area. I worked for Pet Value, which is a specialty retailer, pet food and supplies. Very similar situation to honeygrow in that similar footprint. We had kind of the odds stacked against us. It was a retailer that was based in Canada, and they didn't really see a lot of growth opportunity here in the U.S. because competition was so great. So we had a great team of people, small group, where we were all really motivated and excited to prove everyone wrong. Again, Philadelphia mantra, you know, hold my beer, I got this. So we would band together and really did great things. We rebranded the company. We redesigned the interior. We brought in really exceptional products, put together a great training program for all of our store employees, and in fact everyone in the company had to go through that, even in the corporate office. And it was about executing an exceptional customer experience, and that's something that I use every day now.
And it's interesting because you wouldn't expect a director of marketing to talk about training, right? But why is that tied? What's the connection?
I mean, I think that's part of being involved with a smaller company, which is what I love. So training is really important, because just going back to what we were saying about so many different ways these days for customers to talk to someone at the company. I mean, customers get very frustrated. They can't pick up the phone anymore and talk to someone in customer service. It's, you know, everything
I'm one of those
is
jerks.
AI.
I love talking to people. I'm like hardwired.
Right.
I don't do well with technologies, but anyway.
Well, and
most
even
people
if you
do like the
people
message.
just want to be heard. And that's important for customers. And so to give them the opportunity to be heard and to show that you're taking their feedback and making a positive change goes a very long way with customers. And so so when it comes to training, you know, if someone has a poor experience, then
that's 4 L's marketing right there. You know,
like, that's my
the basics.
problem.
Yeah, that's the basics.
Right.
But we think of training, you think about like you know, how do we start this conversation? One team, one dream. Right. So people need to know who is the team? What is the team? Where do we come from? What's our history? What's our story? What are the answers to these questions that people are going to have?
Exactly.
And having those answers, training the people that have an answer, response. Not even have to like think about it, but like, oh, I know this answer because I was trained to have an answer for it. That's all marketing.
It is. And in marketing, you know, you are really the spokesperson for the company, and what happens within those 4 walls or online, you're responsible for, at the very least, coming up with a response to satisfy that customer and ultimately making them have a positive experience. So understanding what kind of training the employees are going through is very important, and sitting through it ourselves. Just yesterday, the newest member of my marketing team was in one of our restaurants in the Philadelphia area, spent the entire day learning how to work a wok. And that's critical. We all need to go through the steps, understand what the company is all about what makes this company special and different in order to market it properly. And, you know, at honeygrow, we do think that it's our people. It's the premier execution of an excellent product that makes us different. There's so much competition out
And it's
there.
not easy to do the kind of food you guys are doing to scale, like, you know, wholesome, sustainable, from scratch. A lot of your stuff is from scratch food. Like, that's hard to scale.
It is very hard.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's going to come out. So I know after the pet retailer, you were at Victory.
Victory Brewing Company.
Your first food and beverage experience.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I had pet food, I guess.
Oh, that's right.
Two-legged. F&B experience. Yes. So at Victory, you know, we were also in a high growth phase. I was hired as their first director of marketing. They had not had one prior to that. So my experience there was, again, growing a team. Really, the design there was impeccable, which is a big reason for people making purchases. It's the same thing as judging a book by its cover, right?
Yeah.
It has to be attractive. It has to look great. The story on the back of the bottle has to be on point. The flavor profiles need to be on point. And so that was a fun experience to be able to grow that brand with them. And, you know, the amount of products that we put out was incredible. At the end of the day, it was mostly beer, although we did delve into the food side of things. We had 3 restaurants while I was there. We created a really amazing self-guided tour at our Parksburg facility, which is the premier well, it wasn't just R&D. R&D was out of a different location, but that's their center where they made the most beer, the biggest brewery that they had. And also they...
Flagship? Is that the word?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was. Flagship was really the original location, which was Downingtown, but it was the primary brewery, so the largest capacity. And they've since expanded into a number of other locations, but we also created quite a number of CPG products. We had ice cream and pickles and beef jerky and pasta, and all of these we paired with local artisanal partners, and then they were sold locally and throughout the footprint, I guess I would say, in many situations. So yes, that was my first delve into the F&B world. Really found it fascinating. The company grew quite a bit. I learned a lot. Gosh, there's so many laws that I didn't realize were in place when it comes to alcohol.
I know.
So that
and
was
it's
a
different
monster.
for every state and city. It can be
really
so
is.
overwhelming.
Yeah, and especially the big beers that Victory and a lot of these craft breweries are creating. I mean, the ABVs will knock you out.
I think if it's above 5, it starts to get wonky with what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, we had some of our specialty were close to 14.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So what year was it when you left Victory?
I left Victory in 2016, I believe it was.
So we're getting close to present day.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed you're doing about 2 to 3 years at every location. Is there strategy as far as career strategy behind that?
There's really not. I think in marketing you tend to see more of that, and I think it's because people get stale, want something new. It's the earlier on in your career in marketing, it's a much more creative environment. And as you get further up, it becomes a more strategic and data-driven.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
position.
I was looking at that and I was curious because I think 2 to 3 years is good for like a chef too,
Mm-hmm.
or like a bartender, or
Right.
or maybe server or whatever. But especially in the back of house, or if you're looking to open a restaurant, because it's really important to get that perspective,
Right.
To see how different people do things, to grow your arsenal of weapons,
Mm-hmm.
right, and knowledge and skills, and to find out what your passion is. The only way you can figure out what you're passionate about is to expose yourself to it.
Right.
So I think it's good. I mean, a minimum of 1 year, I would say, because people are investing in you, right? They got to train you. That costs money, and they want to get an ROI on their effort to get you up to where you need to be. So keep that in the back of your mind as you're looking to work. But 2 to 3 years, I think, is a good trade. You
Right.
know, you train me, I give you 2 to 3 years, and then, I'm not screwing you out of the money that you put into invest into me to get this opportunity. But that perspective is so important.
Right. It really is. And, the more that you can experience, and this is why agencies, I think it's important for a lot of marketers to try being with an agency. In an agency, you're working on you may have one role, you're responsible for one thing, but you're responsible for that one thing over multiple clients. And so you're constantly having to switch your hat and try to think, you're thinking on behalf of that client. And so you're constantly challenging your creativity in different ways. And in the marketing world, oftentimes, when you're at that earlier stages of your career and you are really challenging your creative brain constantly, you have to mix it up.
Yeah. And you've been at honeygrow now for a little over a year,
Yep.
right? So end of 2021 is when you joined, or early 2022?
2021, April of 2021.
Okay.
2022, I'm getting my years confused.
Yeah. So what happened between 2016 and 2022?
Yeah, so I worked for a supply chain, I shouldn't say supply chain, a logistics company, which was really interesting to get very involved in supply chain during COVID, and while the world was going through such a shift, and it was a great experience that I rely on a lot today, and it makes me understand what's happening we all talk about supply chain. I feel like everyone is mentioning it personally and professionally every day, whether you're having a home
Especially
renovation
right
or something like that, and you can't get the wood or cabinetry or whatever. And then here in the restaurant industry, we're all seeing that there's prices going up because of supply chain, and it's the cost of gas is driving up the cost of lettuce getting
Right.
to a restaurant, and things like that. So but under having the experience working for a logistics company and understanding how a container that's tied up in the ocean somewhere, what that impact is all along the way, and that there just weren't enough containers to move freight and things like that. That's supply and demand. So all of it, it was really fascinating to work with them, and again, they were also in a high growth mode, which is kind of the trend that you're hearing here.
Yeah, I'm curious, but part of the narrative you're hearing today as far as being a cause organization is the reducing your carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm.
And the big way to do that is to get things from less far away.
Right.
So is that how does your experience with supply chain influence that part of your knowledge?
Yeah, that was the question that I always prayed nobody would ask me when I was working in
sorry.
marketing there. Well, I'm not working there anymore, so it's okay. But how does a logistics company reduce their carbon footprint? That's nearly impossible to do. Their business is
Moving
based on
things.
burning fuel.
Those ships are not fuel efficient.
No.
They are moving a lot. So it's the amount that they get like something like how many miles per gallon do those things?
I don't even know. I didn't deal with
hundreds of miles per gallon.
Yeah,
or
I
something
dealt
like that.
more in the trucking side
No,
of
wait.
things than the ocean, but
It's not hundreds of miles. It's the other way around. It's like a few miles per gallon. They use a lot of fuel. It's crazy.
yeah.
But they're moving a lot of stuff, so it bounces out a little bit.
Right, and then it comes back to the old question, as in a consumer-based situation, are you going to get your products from overseas for less money, a larger carbon footprint, and perhaps not, the most sustainable way to get your products, or are you going to get them domestically and
Which
reduce your carbon
It's
footprint?
a whole nother
and-
set of problems.
Right, exactly. So, you weigh that and you try and figure out what's best. And that's really up to the company themselves and how they feel. What do you...
But I guess the question is the cause
Mm-hmm.
great enough to get people to pay an extra $2 or $3 than the competitor?
I think that I would say that I'd like to say that most companies would say the cause is great enough. But at the end of the day, it's not up to the company to make that decision. It's up to the customer. And it depends what your customer...
Bingo.
What's
And
your
I think
customer willing to
We're
spend?
getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I think and that's one of the things I try to echo here is that the restaurant industry needs to get back to being influencers. I think it's pretty safe to say that we're hardwired to react to the consumer traditionally.
Absolutely.
That's what we do. We're constantly in fear of what the consumer is going to do because they can put us out of business. But I think the industry kind of needs to get on the same page and say, listen, let's lock arms. Let's say, and this is the way, let's move into the future consciously and say, this is what it costs to get you the food that's best for all of us, meaning the food that's grown next door, you know, that we can have people who are skilled to make it and pay them what they deserve to get paid. But the consumer has to know. It starts with them. And like I said, I'm getting way ahead of ourselves, but like, what are your thoughts as I'm saying this?
Another loaded question.
As a marketer, you know, like, well, at the end of the day, we got to sell.
Well, I mean, it's a hard thing. I'm a consumer too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we all are. And that's what makes marketing really interesting, because you have to think like yourself when you're not sitting in your office. And so 100%, I want to fuel my body with the healthiest food that I can, the most locally grown, because I want to fuel the economy with those local farmers and purveyors. But I don't have an endless pocket. You know, I mean,
well,
and
the thing is that we have to do it together,
because
it can't just come from one. Like, I mean, it starts with one person, and then that, you know. But like, I think the faster we can share knowledge and make an example of each other and inspire each other, and that's why I truly believe that, you know, like my mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry so we can transform the world, because we have to spread this information internally before we can pay it forward to the consumer, right?
Right.
Anyway. Derailed over. Back to your story.
Okay, so I think I'm at current day.
Yeah. So logistics was the last thing you did before coming here. So you had a good run there, 6 years.
I did, yeah.
Wow.
So really.
Why'd you leave?
Because through COVID, sadly, I had to reduce the number of people in my team, and I went from 10 to 1.
Wow.
And at the rate the company was growing, I wasn't able to do the work I was hired to do. I was having to spread myself way too thin and wasn't making an impact that I really wanted to make. So I found myself here at honeygrow. And funny, I had talked to a recruiter for the same position right before COVID, and the position was very similar to what it is today, except the problem for me was that it was 5 days of working in Philadelphia Center City, and I live about an hour away from Philadelphia.
Woof.
Yeah. So that wasn't going to work. I have 3 young kids. That wasn't going to work for me. So the conversation didn't go any further when I was told that was a non-starter. So I just stuck where I was, and I was fine with that. And then post-COVID, conversation happened again, and the world had changed, and now it's now we're in the office about 3 days a week, and that makes a lot more sense for me. So
Awesome.
Here I am again.
Awesome. And it was your old buddy, was it a colleague? Yeah. What was the relationship when you knew the person who recruited you for it? I saw him. Yeah. I didn't catch his name.
Walt Harkins.
Walt. What's his role here?
He is the COO.
Okay.
And Walt and I worked together at my very first company, or my very first job, I should say, at EB Games. And so our paths crossed again. And I had reached out to him for something professionally related, not related to this role. And we were talking, and he's like, I think we got to get you in here.
What was his title at EB Games?
His title at EB Games, oh gosh.
Was he doing operations stuff?
He was part of the store design and planning team, so he was doing construction.
Oh, okay.
So
because I'm thinking to myself, what an interesting leap from EB Games to the food and beverage for a company like honeygrow. I don't know. I got a little distracted because that sounded interesting. But I think now's a great time to take our first break to thank our sponsors. We'll be right back to talk about what it was like when you got here, and how it's evolved over the time. And I think there's going to be some great nuggets of this. I'm super excited.
Awesome.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back, and you just gave us a lot. I got a lot of little crumbs that you left behind, little nuggets of information that I think will help steer the conversation going forward, because you have such a wide swath of experience within marketing, and what an asset you are, like ad agency, media companies, distribution, and logistics, and I mean growing teams, marketing teams, the evolution from more print to digital, and like what that evolution's been like. So
Sure.
I'm just curious, like, where are you today, and how has this wide swath of marketing experience helped mold the professional you are? So like when you got to honeygrow, where was their marketing? How many locations do they have?
Okay, so let's see. When I started with honeygrow a year ago, I believe we had 26 locations, 25 or 26 locations. So
And-
we've added 6.
And they started 2010, 2012?
2012.
12. I knew I
Yes.
saw that somewhere.
So we are 10 years old.
So they went from in almost 10 years they went from 1 location to 26 locations.
Yes, and in fact, there was I can tell you the honeygrow story quickly.
Yeah, please.
So honeygrow was founded by Justin Rosenberg, CEO, founder. He is still very much a part of our day-to-day. I talk to him probably 20 times a day. So he started this company out of his own kind of wellness journey. He was working for, he was a financial analyst for a company here in Philadelphia, living in the life of the cubicle guy, and just felt like he wanted something different. He was kind of over life in the cubicle. And he started, throwing some veggies into a salad for lunch, and then he would go home and use leftovers and throw those veggies into a wok at dinner. And he was like, wait, I think there's something here. And so he founded the company based on that concept, really. He went to either 92 or 93 investors with his concept, and they said, nope. And finally, I think it was 93rd or 94th said yes. And that investor is still very active today as well. And so Justin started as with our first location at 16th Street in Philadelphia, and he has grown it from there into the 31 that we have today. It'll be 32 next week.
That's pretty ahead of the curve. I mean, right around that time, there was a huge demand for healthier options.
Mm-hmm.
People are becoming much more conscious of what they're putting into their body. Food is no longer something to fill your body, to take the edge off, but it's medicine. You know, like what you put into your body is a direct result on how you feel. And people are becoming much more aware of this. So I'm a little confused as to like the uniqueness of what he thought he had that nobody else was doing. So what was unique? So he was making salads, and whatever he didn't finish for lunch, he would just toss in a stir fry.
Yeah, and would add different grains and things like that he knew were healthy, and that he had gone plant-based for a while, and was kind of messing around with some different things for himself, and then that translated very well into honeygrow. So honeygrow, we sell stir fry salads and honey bars. So our stir fries are not your typical stir fry, and in terms of marketing, this is one of my harder stories to tell, especially in a new market where someone is not familiar with the brand. So what is a stir fry? You think of more of that, soy sauce and sesame flavoring and things like that, and we certainly do have that. And I like to call our sesame garlic stir fry I always say that's our gateway stir fry, because that's what you kind of expect to get from a stir fry. It's delicious. It's one of my favorites.
Sold.
And then from there, we have a huge variety. We have 6 different sauces that you can choose from. You can create your own. You can, we've got our spicy garlic is one of our best sellers, which is a really spicy, great flavor that has, even has some pineapple in it. Not your traditional, but still not too far off the mark. But then just last year we launched as a seasonal item. Last spring, I believe it was, we did the garlic butter chicken, and that exploded and did so well.
Yeah,
and
I saw that. I almost got it. It was between that or the shrimp Caesar. I ended up going with the shrimp. But
all right, well, next time then you can have the garlic butter. It's delicious, and it sold like crazy. Typically, our seasonal menu items do not stay on the menu, but we made room for it.
Nice.
So that was a huge seller, and that is you still get. It's not your traditional. It's not like a scampi type of a flavor, but it is definitely not the more Asian style that you would associate with a stir fry.
So do you know the pitch to the investors? What was he going to the investors trying to say? Like, this is why it's different. What was different about it? Because there were salad concepts.
There are salad concepts, 100%, but we are primarily a stir fry concept.
Got it.
And what makes us different is that, first of all, there is nothing like that out there. There's just not.
Yeah.
We have fresh ingredients. We have our noodles are proprietary. We have an egg white noodle. We have a whole wheat noodle that has an insane amount of protein and fiber, more than any grain bowl that you'll find out there. And then we also have a rice noodle that is gluten-free. And of course, we have the traditional brown rice. And our noodles are what makes us different. They are by far our largest sellers. Even though, a lot of stir fries are served with rice. Rice is of the 4 bases, that's our, the least. We also offer, you could do a kale base if you're trying to stay away from the carbs and things like that. So, but what makes us different is 100% it's our noodles.
Got it.
And there's nothing like that out there. I mean, we have competitors in this space, but it's interesting. We did a market survey not too long ago, a couple of months ago, and we asked who our competitors were. And from a marketing perspective, well, some people will say something like that because they think of it as an Asian concept, and maybe that's where the name will guide you, but our menu is not that at all.
That was a joke. Yeah.
We don't have fryers. We don't have a freezer.
Yeah.
We don't have a microwave. It's the freshest ingredients that you're going to get. So, we run through our...
So there's an opportunity to be way better than anything that was out there.
100%.
There's a void in the market.
There is.
And he was looking to fill that.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So when you got here in 2021, 26 locations, paint the picture of what honeygrow had grown into. That was fun to say.
Sure. So we are a very tech-forward company in that we launched the kiosk concept where you do all of your ordering at the kiosks. We launched
hoping
that
that
before.
would come up.
Yeah.
So that was here when you got on board.
It was. This is how it's always been.
So when did that start? From day one,
Day one.
2012. Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
to me that's a huge selling problem.
Right.
Like it's especially to marketers because your labor expense is way lower.
Sure.
I mean,
So-
not way lower, but I'm sure it's considerable. It helps to not have.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely does help. And it doesn't come without its own challenges, though. Now you can come into a honeygrow and you can, again, mindset has totally changed in the past 20 years since I've been doing this, where it used to be that people would want to engage with one another. And now people don't want to engage with one another. People want to be able to go into a restaurant and leave with their meal, either eat it there or take it away and not talk to anybody. You don't look people in the eye anymore. People don't say hello. It's like a crazy world we live in these days. But anyway, you can easily go into honeygrow and you can order everything and not talk to a soul. So in many situations, that's a good thing, and it improves efficiencies and things like that. There is also, we at our leadership table go back to the conversation all the time that we need to be engaging more with our guests and things like that. And so that kind of goes against the kiosk model. And so it's finding that right balance that where our guests are feeling welcome enough, but they have enough autonomy to make their own
I think
decisions.
you got to meet the guests where they're at. If they're making eye contact and smiling with you, then that's the door is open.
Right.
If they're looking at their phone the moment they walk in, they look up to find out where their bag is, they grab their bag and they walk out. Don't start a conversation with them. Like they're looking to grab and go.
Yeah.
So I think it's like you just got to be mindful of the situation.
Exactly. And so we have that ability and that flexibility, which is nice that, we can use our managers normally are working at the register as the expo, and they're able to kind of get a read on the guest and engage with them and certainly if someone comes into a honeygrow and they look at this kiosk and they think, what the heck do I do now? We 100% have all of our employees are looking to make sure that experience is a very positive one.
Yeah.
So we're not leaving anybody high and dry.
And I was able to figure it out. And I break technology, so it's pretty intuitive technology. And I had a question. I was curious. So you open at 10:30. Is that across all locations? Is that uniform?
Yes.
And what time do you close?
That fluctuates just a little bit, but we're normally between 9 and 10.
9 and 10. What percentage of your sales are lunch versus dinner?
That's something that's really been interesting over the past couple of years as things have, for 2 reasons, we've seen a big shakeup there. It's really 50-50. It used to be a lot stronger on our lunch portion, and that was because people were in the city and they were working in the city. We also had more city locations.
Yeah. So where I'm going with this is, I don't think people don't want to talk to people anymore, but I think that there's an opportunity. There's a what's the word? A demographic of individual who's just going, and they need that. They still need to eat.
Right.
So they want to be able to order on their phone 20 minutes before they get there, grab it and go and be efficient and eat it on like the train or like in the car.
Sure.
So like their next
And that's,
thing.
I mean, the rise in third party.
Yeah.
And same things happening there.
Yeah, so I think what's happening is the industry is just diversifying to
Mm-hmm.
meet the unique needs of individuals with the increased accessibility to convenience. So
Right.
if the convenience is there, if the technology is there to serve convenience, then there's an opportunity to fill that void for the people who want convenience. There's still people that want to go out and sit down and know the name of the bartender.
Right.
And like that's still around too.
Absolutely.
I just think we're fragmenting the industry.
Sure.
So like it's not like it's like the end of the world. It's just like there's just so much more room for diversity in options.
Right. And that's why, I say that we have to find that balance. And I
Yeah.
think that we're doing a pretty good job of that, where, we recognize if someone comes in and they look confused, we're going to, nip that in the bud and explain to them how this whole thing works. Especially as we go into new markets. That's really important for us. And when it comes to, somebody who's been at a honeygrow multiple times, oftentimes they do know at least, enough to make the connection who that manager is, or our team knows who those guests are, our more regular customers and things like that. And so, we are definitely aware of, the importance of engaging with those customers when they want it.
Yeah. So when you came here in 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and you looked at this company through your marketing lens,
Yep.
and you're looking like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, maybe we can shift this a little bit. Ooh, that could probably improve. Or I don't know how I'm gonna make that better. Like, what that landscape look like for you?
So the marketing seat at honeygrow had been a bit of a revolving door, and I think that's that wasn't only with honeygrow at that time. That was coming out of COVID, and almost everyone I know in the marketing industry, excuse me, was interested in making some sort of a change. And I think that probably isn't just marketing. I think that
It was
lots
forced.
of people.
It wasn't an option.
It
You
was
had to.
forced.
Yeah.
Yep. Or there were some, there's changes in the work dynamic of, where are you working? Some people wanted to be home. Some people didn't want to be home. And those changes, make you look elsewhere. So
It sounds like honeygrow was pretty well set up for the pandemic.
exactly. Yep. That's just where I was going to go. We were set up very well for the pandemic because we already had curbside delivery. We already had the contactless ordering platforms. We had an app that made that all very easy. So we were definitely set up for what was to come unknowingly.
And the food travels really well too.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. We had relationships with third party. All of that was already underway.
So I'm curious, did honeygrow experience growth before, like where were they at 2020, for example? You were at 26 locations in 2021, but was that for them a time to go get it? Like places are closing, let's go fill those voids because we're making money.
Well, at that time, I'm not sure that I would say that, that the pandemic was a positive experience for us because everyone pulled back.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, everyone's spending was being much more cautious. People were afraid. So, I mean, remember when we were like wiping down our takeout with Clorox wipes? Like, how crazy was that? I mean, we were all going through this very uncertain
out of fear
time.
or out of what's the word? That was regulatory, wasn't it?
Was it? I
I
don't
think
remember.
you had to do those things.
I don't know. It's
I don't
like
know. I could be wrong.
Try to
but
block out that part of my life.
yeah, somebody was afraid. Sorry,
but
I don't
but
mean to be
we.
insensitive.
I mean, I remember leaving my groceries outside for 3 days to make sure that they were okay. I mean, it was just very different. So the restaurant industry, as you know, I mean, it definitely was hit very hard. So I wouldn't say that we grew during that time, but we did take time. And this was before I was here, but Justin and Walt and the rest of the leadership team, they would have regular meetings. From what I've heard, multiple times a day in some situations, talking about what can we do, how can we get past this, how can we, that's when we launched Honeygrow at Home, which is still a part of the brand that we're looking forward to growing more, but it's an opportunity for our guests to take our noodles and our sauces home, and then they can add their own proteins and vegetables as they'd like, make their own stir fries at home. So that was launched during that time, as many restaurants were becoming creative about how do we keep those sales going. But there were multiple phone calls every day with the leadership team to try and figure out what other creative ideas they could come up with. And they also took that time to look within and figure out, what is our growth strategy? We know we're going to get through this, but what do we do? How do we get ourselves ready to explode once we get through this? And so that kind of leads us to where we are today. We were at 26 restaurants through the pandemic. We've opened 6 or 7 since then, and we are on path to open a total of 12 this
Yeah, you're
year.
at 32. So a big part of growth is building the house before you move into it.
Yep.
Were you a part of that new home that was being built, the corporate or executive suite of people that are going to come in and help provide that growth?
They didn't really clean house and start over, anything like that. So it was a gradual addition of new leadership, really, and many were hired from within. A couple of new people, things like that, over the last several years. So it wasn't a complete restructure or anything like that. We moved from a big facility that was on the other side of town that we really just didn't need all of that space, and that was part of looking within and seeing what truly was necessary.
So a year ago, when you started, did you know that you were trying to get to 20 more locations in 2 years?
We were building that out.
Okay.
Yes.
So what was the marketing strategy when you got here? What did that look like?
So when I got here, I was pretty much starting from scratch, being 100% honest and transparent.
So they didn't really have a marketing plan with 26 locations?
They had things that they had been doing for some time, and it was working.
Like
so, we had seasonal menu changes and different ways that they were going to launch those. There was social media was in place, and making sure that we were.
When you say in place, what did it look like?
Those channels were set up.
So
we had Instagram. We had Instagram. We just started TikTok. We had Facebook page, Twitter.
That's pretty good for a year. I mean, I guess TikTok. It's been about a year. Things were.
Yeah, we did. We started on TikTok pretty early, and so and I think that's a tough space for restaurants, at least at this point. But we wanted to get in early and see what we could. Yeah, we wanted to be first to market on TikTok. But yeah, so we had social media channels in place. We did have someone who was running our social media at the time. And so we had all of the marketing vehicles there. We had email campaigns.
What did running the social media look like? Was there a strategy, a minimum amount of posts, a time to post?
That was all being figured out kind of at that time. There wasn't a certain, we posted as often as we could. And I think social media is hard that way. You want to post every day, and sometimes that's necessary. But sometimes that's overkill, and finding the balance is a tough thing. And I think that the algorithms are constantly changing for social media. So it's not only how often are you posting, it's how much are you spending on whether it's an ad or if you're boosting a post, and is it a reel on Instagram or is it a static post, because the algorithms change so often, and Instagram wants certain type of content over others, and they're going to show that to different to their viewers and on a different frequency.
Yeah. So when you came here, when you started looking at the marketing landscape that honeygrow had at that time, what was your internal narrative? Where do I start? And what's next? And how do we make this better? What was that looking like?
Yeah. So when I started, we had one other person in marketing, and we had one social media intern. And since then, both of those individuals have moved on, which was a shame because they were both wonderful. But it also gave me the opportunity to look within and kind of figure out, what does this team need? How are we going to reach these growth goals? And so we added a field marketing specialist, which was a great hire for, and definitely a need for the company. So the field marketing specialist is someone who is kind of the liaison at the local level with the managers and getting involved in the local community and figuring out how to grow the brand locally, as opposed to from, where I am, the
Big picture.
right. And
Yeah.
and the strategy for the brand is one thing, but the strategy for each individual restaurant is different. It depends if it's a city location or if it's a suburban location.
How do you tailor the message?
Yeah, it's going to be very different. And, is it a university campus or, a college campus location? Because that makes a big difference also. So it's getting very local. And so that is our field marketing specialist was a really important hire. She also has a background she has been a GM, not of a honeygrow, but of another fast casual restaurant with similar philosophies. So she had that background as well as a marketing background. So that was a perfect fit, because you can't expect a GM to leave their four walls to go do some of this grassroots marketing work that needs to be done in order to grow a brand in a new market.
I mean, it's just so, like, marketing is getting so complex. Like, and just, it's not, even within each of the verticals that there are, it's like you have to master the right way to use those tools. Like, there's so many little nuances within those tools that influence the algorithm. Like, are you creating the posts within Instagram? Are you using their assets to create those posts? Like,
Right.
it's just so, like, it just makes you, like, if you're not somebody who likes to, I like to use the analogy of, like, scrapbook. If you're not a scrapbooker,
Right.
you're probably not going to thrive in that vertical of social media. So, like, stay in your lane. I think today's age, you need to outsource for social media. That's what I do, because I absolutely hate. I don't mind looking at the social media feeds. I'm like everybody else. I get distracted. It's entertaining. I laugh, but don't make me create that level of shit like 4 times a day. Go F off. Like, come on, seriously. Like, is this what I have to do to be successful?
Oh my
Because
gosh,
if that's the
you're preaching to
case,
the choir.
it's like, holy shit, what are we doing? Anyway, I digress.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
It is absolutely the truth. We had a social media intern who we hired as full time, and it's the same. It's exactly what you're saying. It is a lot of work and constant creativity to go out and figure out what is our strategy? How do I create this new and different content? How many times can you show a noodle pool?
Yeah.
And it's, we live it and breathe it, and we get sick of it. But our guests, our followers, are not seeing it every single time we post it, and we have to keep that in mind. So that is, that's something that I reiterate all the time. It doesn't matter what we like. It matters what's going to resonate and what our guests like.
Is that a problem that we have to, like, act a way that we want so other people will like us? Why can't we just act the way we want to be?
I don't think it's a matter of acting differently.
Yeah.
I think it's just you have to look at, in terms of social media, it's what is going to get someone. You're still portraying the food in the same way. You're still telling the same story.
Yeah.
You're just telling it in a way that is going to get them to respond a little differently.
Yeah.
It's like anything else. It's seeing the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting in a restaurant right now, and I sit in this restaurant multiple times a week.
Right.
And I can tell you things that other guests, I'm probably not seeing things that other guests are that come in the same time.
Anybody who listens to the show knows that my despise for social media and the world that we're being thrust into without really an option. We really don't have an option. I think that's my issue. I'm going to try to dampen my emotions as much as possible, because I'm here to learn and to hear your perspective of why we should use it and the benefits of it and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to be unbiased as much as possible during this conversation.
We have hired just our most recent hire, who I was telling you before was just doing her training day in the restaurant yesterday. She's our social media coordinator. Digital marketing, I think, is her official title. And she is doing a phenomenal job. So she comes from an agency background where she worked on multiple clients and always having to really challenge that creativity and coming up with different campaigns and different social media content for many, many different clients every day. And so now she's working with just one brand, which was something that she felt she wanted to do after she was working on many clients. And she's coming up with some really funny, great content, and just testing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most important thing, I think, in marketing these days. If you're working with a company that's small enough to still do the test, do the test.
I think that is one of the silver linings for me with social media and marketing, is that if you are a creative person, because everybody needs to do this today, it's creating so much opportunity for people in a world where a lot of roles are going away to automation and robotics. They still can't create well they used to. Now AI is kicking the shit out of us. But anyway, it's another whole vertical. I digress. Back to the 4 people that you had.
Yes.
That you have. When you came here, it was just you, right?
Yeah, well, we had 2 other people who have both moved on, and we've kind of started from scratch since then in terms of creating the roles.
So it was you.
Mm-hmm.
It was your field person.
No,
It was the
she is new.
She's new.
Yeah. So when I started, it was myself, social media intern, who then became full-time, and then also a marketing manager.
And marketing manager. So that's 3 people.
That's 3 people. So
Okay.
we've since changed that. So now it's myself. We have a graphic designer, which we were outsourcing before, and now that's all internal.
Okay.
We also have a field marketing specialist, which is a new role entirely. That was not something we had before, but desperately needed. And then we have a digital marketing coordinator who handles our all aspects of digital, be it social media, email, and anything.
So your digital marketing
SEO
coordinator
and
is the
that
woman
kind
you
of stuff.
were just talking about,
Mhm.
super creative. So
Yeah.
you, graphic designer, field person, digital marketing coordinator.
Correct.
All right, and that's now. So what has the evolution over the past year? Like, what's the struggle been for you, trying to restructure, rejigger the organization from a marketing standpoint?
I think the hard part for me has been figuring out what roles we need, because in 1 year that's a lot of change. So figuring out, first of all, the company, where we're going, what resources on the marketing team we're going to need in order to reach those goals, then finding the people to fill those roles that have the experience. And when you're in a small organization like honeygrow is, with this high growth, you don't have the time to hire somebody who's fresh out of school that doesn't have the experience. You need to hire somebody who has enough experience that they can hit the ground running. And I love nothing more than mentoring people that are young in their career. And I, love having the opportunity to talk to people who are fresh out of college. And I love listening to the ideas that they have, because that's our future. But in this particular situation, I needed to have people who were over those first couple of years where they could really come in and make an impact quickly. So that was an important piece in finding the right individuals. We also needed people that were going to fit with the brand and fit with our culture. Honeygrow is a small, I keep saying small because we are lean, but that's really an important piece to our growth, is being able to have the right personality and cultural fit in order to grow. We work really hard, but I tell everyone that, Justin is the kind of guy that will shut down a room so that the brand new employee who has been with the company for 5 minutes has their opportunity to talk, and he values every single person's opinion.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we have people that are able to speak their mind. And another thing that Justin tells everyone is manage up, and he really believes that. You can have a very heated conversation with him, and he takes that feedback and makes changes if it's warranted, and that's not something you find every day.
Yeah.
So it's a special place. I've worked at a lot of consumer focused organizations over the years, and there's something very unique and very special about honeygrow. So finding the right fit for honeygrow, that took time, and I'm really excited because we've now found the this team that works together really well. All personalities click, and we are ready to hit the ground running.
Love it.
So now it's been a year. I've filled those roles. Our most recent hire started end of March, so literally a couple of days before my 1 year anniversary here. And now I feel like I'm finally at the point where I can focus on the strategy and the higher level programs that need to be really dealt with, improved, things that need to be set up for our future growth and to remain competitive in the market.
So when you're giving me this list of people that you have internally, so you graphic designer, your field person, your digital marketer, it sounds like a lot of these efforts, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, are more towards, when I see that, I think social media, with maybe the exception of a graphic designer where you need that in-house, or like whether it's print or digital. I'm assuming that when you got here, things like branding, like all the other stuff, the other, what is it, product, price, promotion,
Yeah.
people.
Good job.
Am I missing one? Product, price,
Got your
people,
mix.
promotion, and there's one more I'm missing. Packaging.
Yeah.
Yes. Where was all that stuff?
Sure. So that was all price and product.
Yeah.
Certainly, those were in place. They've been in place. Pricing is not dealt with through marketing. That's dealt with in a different department. And product, that is also really a leadership decision,
Yeah.
but that is dealt with through our culinary team.
So you're looking at packaging, promotion,
Packaging, promotion.
and people we talked about
And the
earlier.
brand.
There's a little bit of a connection with the people because they
Mhm.
need to be trained to deliver. There's some overlap there, but you're really focusing on branding and promotion. Is that safe to say?
Yes. And, so the brand, the name honeygrow, the logo, that has been intact. And I don't know that any of that will ever change. There's been a couple of taglines that have changed over the years, and that's very normal and natural. But when we hired our graphic designer, he has made such an impact on the brand. He is incredibly creative, very talented. He has a great illustrative way about his design. He has, he's a painter. He does all of these great things, and he was able, in my opinion, he's brought the brand up to an entirely different level.
Yeah.
And we've continued to talk about elevating the brand internally, and that's something that's important for us. So honeygrow is the common term that we use in honeygrow over and over is create. So our number one seller on our menu items is the create your own. We have a create your own stir fry and a create your own salad and honey bar. We try to really push the creative side of everything we do.
Why is that?
I think that was part of Justin's original concept, is that he's a creative person as well. And so we want to make every honeygrow experience a little bit unique. We're sitting in this restaurant right now, and there's a mural next to us. And all of these words on the mural, and this was done by a local painter, every word on here is really funny because the artist was sitting in a honeygrow and kind of wrote down all these different phrases that she heard people saying, and your listeners aren't going to fully get it, but some of them are really funny. What you overhear in a conversation, and this is just one of our murals, but we have 31 locations, and every one of them has a mural done by a local artist or by Andrew himself. And that makes us unique, and it gives a little bit of a creative feel to the brand. So we've been trying to find our balance between, visually we have these really beautiful products, this, fresh ingredients and craveable dishes and wholesome meals that you can share with friends and family. And how do we showcase that along with this creative side of things? And so, Andrew has done a really great job of bringing our brand a combination of this great photography and his own personal touch on, using his hand-drawn illustrations and things like that. So he has brought the brand up in a major way, in my opinion, and you said that you used our kiosk not too long ago, and just on Monday, we launched that new kiosk across all restaurants and everything. We thought about sending that out and having that project done externally, but instead we kept it inside and really had full control over it. Might have taken a little while longer.
I'm curious about the technology behind that. Who creates that? Who's your
So
provider?
we do work with, we handle our technology partially internally, and then we have a third party partnership. Really, I would even hesitate to call them a third party because we work so closely with them. But it's a company that we partner with that does the programming side of things. So all of the design work is done internally through our
When you
graphic
say design,
designer.
you're talking about user experience design?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, well,
Like the actual,
yes, but
what the screen, what's
correct.
on the screen.
What's on the screen, where you are, yes, the user experience, where you're hitting that kiosk and what comes up next and how that transition and if there's animation and all of that kind of thing.
Upselling, what you guys, and
Upselling.
I think a lot of people, when they think about robotics and kiosks, they're like, well, you lose the user experience, you lose the curiosity, you lose the opportunities to upsell by asking questions. And this thing is really, I notice it's really good about getting ahead of you of like, do you want more protein? Do you want extra sauce? Do you want, some people, we notice people order this.
Right.
Like, so there is upselling happening, and I'm a sucker for it. Oh yeah, give me that extra protein. Like I'm sure you probably from where the original cost of an item is to like what actually they're paying for by the time they go through all the upselling is probably on average the difference of a couple dollars. I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that number is offhand,
Yeah,
but
not your
certainly, I
department.
mean, that's what every retailer and every restaurant is going to probably do.
I'm curious about this company that you're working with who helps create that user experience. Can
Yeah.
you share the name of that company?
So the user experience is designed entirely internally by us.
Okay.
I say I'm giving myself way too much credit. I really have nothing to do with it. It's Andrew, who's our
Okay.
graphic designer, has done a remarkable job. So the entire user experience is done that way. And then the partner that we have does the programming behind it. So they're kind of behind the scenes.
And we're not allowed to say the name of that company? Okay, I'll try it. We tried. So it seems like, I mean, with all the experience you had with ads in media, the background you had in logistics with the supply chain, I'm curious to know how that's serving you now, because it seems like a lot of your efforts is put towards social media, is where a lot of the energy is going.
Well, it is, and that's had
I don't want to make it just
change
about
over.
social media.
No, it's not really. I mean, that is very much a large part of it, but with social media, it's funny, we all put so much focus on social media, and I think it's because we have it in our pocket all the time.
It's the most bang for your buck right now.
It is,
Yeah.
but what we can't lose sight of, and I would argue that many companies are in the same situation, is that there's an email audience that still exists, and in
Direct
our
mail
world,
marketing.
yeah, I mean,
That's one thing that hadn't come up yet, so I was curious about that too. So I'm going to retract my previous statement. I think four walls marketing is the best bang for your buck. The people that are in your organization creating those experiences every day, because that's going to be what brings people back.
Right.
And that's where you make your money.
Exactly.
And then from there, I think it's direct mail marketing still is huge. And then from there, I think social media is like right on the heels of direct mail marketing. Would you agree with that?
well, I
hierarchy?
think it's kind of different depending on whether you're working with a new like a new market, we call them NROs, a new restaurant, or if you're dealing with an existing restaurant. When it comes to the new restaurants, it's really about making noise in that neighborhood.
How do you make noise?
And that is very much at the on premise. That is where you're having a grand opening. That's where your boots on the ground, and our field marketing specialist is going out and walking into businesses and introducing the brand that way.
I was curious about this field marketing. What's the job description? I'm interested in becoming your new field marketing person. What am I reading? What's the job description?
So that person is meeting with the GMs, talking with them about what's happening in their local community. We have one field marketing specialist. She cannot be at all 31 locations every day or even every week. So she goes out and she has phone calls. She talks to these GMs. She talks to the district managers. What restaurants, prioritizing which restaurants are going to need more help than others, and those that might need a little extra marketing push. She's going out there and she's meeting with the GMs in the store. She's driving around the local community, trying to figure out the lay of the land and where there might be opportunity.
What is she looking for?
She's looking for opportunities to introduce the brand to new customers.
What
so
these
it
opportunities
could
look
be,
like?
it could be. We do a lot of fundraising. So is it finding out how close schools are and seeing if they want to host a fundraiser?
So this is like the guerrilla market.
It is guerrilla. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's going into doctors' offices and introducing the fact that we have catering and giving them a menu and letting them know, like, hey, if you're ordering catering through one of your pharmaceutical reps, don't forget about us or give us a shot.
It's kissing babies, shaking hands, and taking orders.
It is. And you know what? It's a very competitive space right now, fast casual. And not everyone knows what we do. And, we live and breathe it every day. And we think, obviously, everybody knows honeygrow. But that's not the case. And again, we have to think like our customers. And when you look around a shopping center, you might see a honeygrow, but you might see 2 or 3 other fast casuals as well, which is fine because we need variety. We can't all eat the same thing every day. But we have to tell people who we are and what we do and what makes us different, because we are different. I mean, even today, we did a customer survey and we asked who our competitors were, because we think we know who our competitors are, but they may think something very different. And in fact, that's what we found.
What are the benefits?
Of what?
We said earlier that a professor gave you this
Yes.
knowledge that you're selling benefits, so you're different.
Right.
So when you're
Oh,
on
so
the
what are the
ground, when
benefits
you're
of
when you're
honeygrow?
when you're doing this guerrilla marketing, when you're going out to all these different offices and buildings and places that are potential customers or catering options, like what is the what are you how are you selling it?
So we're different. I mean, that's the number one thing, is we are not like any other fast casual. There is not another stir fry place. You can have sandwiches all day long. You can have salads all day long. And yes, you can get a salad here, and you can get, if you order catering, perhaps that's going to go on the side of your stir fry platter. But it's something different. It's
But what are the
unique.
benefits of what you're doing? Why should I care about the different? Like what's in it for me, Amy?
We are well, Eric. We have.
I'm putting you on the spot. You're doing great.
This is exactly what I should be selling all day long. But if you look at, and I'm struggling because I'm looking at a menu right now, and your guests are not, your listeners are not. But there's nothing on our menu over 750 calories.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily done on purpose, but it is important.
That's what it was
to
born
know.
out of.
Right.
Yeah.
You leave honeygrow feeling very full because of the protein and the fiber in the food that you're eating.
Yeah.
You're fueling your body with really healthy and nutritious ingredients.
Yeah.
And so you can go to honeygrow and feel good about what you're eating. I mean, you think about the average person is supposed to consume a 2,000 calorie diet, right? You can feel good about going to honeygrow for lunch or dinner and
still being underneath.
Right.
Yeah.
If you had to chop that up into 3 meals, you can still feel very confident about what you ate and feel good about it.
You don't have to count calories. You can just eat because you
Right.
know it's
Exactly.
on this menu.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes
Use that. Tell that to people. Use that as a benefit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I go into restaurants all the time. I'm like, shoot, I wish they didn't put the calorie count on there because I really wanted to eat that, and now I'm not going to.
Right.
But we don't have to worry about that.
So
Everyone feels good about it.
What I'm trying to do is give the listener some inspiration of when they're thinking of their product, like what's in it for the consumer, like what are the benefits, and like that was those examples were very helpful. So thank you for getting into that. So I mean, I wanted to make sure we got anything else, because I have a feeling the rest of our conversations and talking about social media and what you're doing with social media, what that strategy looks like. We have, I just want to make sure that if there wasn't anything else that you are uniquely suited to discuss in the world of marketing, that I don't want to not leave it on the table.
Well, I don't know if there's anything uniquely suited to me, but
Strengths or anything like that.
but there are other areas of marketing that are really important, especially in the restaurant space. PR is very important, especially with, with all of these reviews that are out there, with so much interaction with the guests about, it's human nature. People don't tell you when they've had a wonderful experience. I mean, that's what you're supposed to have, right?
Yeah.
So people want to be heard when they're annoyed.
Yeah.
So, reputation management is really an important piece of marketing these days, and monitoring those online reviews, and responding to them in a way that best suits your restaurant, that whatever is in line with what your how the restaurant chooses to respond.
I'm sure when you have 26 locations, or now 32 locations, you must be getting messages every day.
Yeah, we have a full-time guest response individual.
I'm adding that to your list of team members. Guest response.
That's actually not in marketing.
Oh, really?
It's not. But
what is that? What would that be?
It's under operations.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, there's quite a bit of crossover, and we do get a lot of feedback.
And that's their job. Wow.
Yeah.
That poor person.
She's amazing.
Just a human pincushion. So
we're lucky. We do get a fair amount of people telling us how positive their experience was.
Yeah.
And so I should retract my prior statement, but I think it's human nature to tell people when you're unhappy versus when you are happy.
So are you using any tools to get ahead of those negative responses?
I mean, the best thing that you can do is that training and giving an awesome experience, executing a superior product. And so that's what it goes back to, being quick and providing fast and accurate service every single time.
Any guest feedback solution software that you're using?
There's really, we don't use any. We use a tool called Yext, which is very popular, and that is more of we use it as an aggregator. Okay. So all of the, you can respond to a review, or you can write a review on many different platforms, and so it streamlines
so it's a dashboard to have all those places.
It is, exactly. It's a dashboard, but we respond to every single review as an individual.
And that's Yext?
Yext.
Y-E-X-T-Y. So have you heard of, so I'm thinking, the company that's specifically coming to mind is Ovation. Have you heard of Ovation?
Sounds familiar.
I'm going to give them a little plug. They are a sponsor, but they're a sponsor because they've been recommended a bunch of times. And it's basically exactly before you leave, you get prompted to basically write a review.
Okay.
But what they're trying to do is to get you to leave your bad experience with that app first.
Right.
So you get it out of your system before you go blow them up.
Okay.
And all those. But you're also collecting email, text message, and it's becoming a platform just to now communicate with your guests and it's a very powerful tool. I was just curious if you were doing anything like that or not. But
we're not. We do have we send a survey to every customer after they've placed their order, as long as we have their email. We do send a survey asking for their feedback about how their order experience went. So I guess in that respect, then that it does a similar type of thing, where we're hoping that we haven't thought about it in that way, that we hope that the bad review stays there. But we take all of that feedback that we get very seriously.
Got it. What about direct mail marketing? What verticals are you looking at?
So we don't do direct mail currently. We've considered it. It's still very expensive. So, really the better way to do that are paid digital ads through social media.
So when I say direct mail marketing, I think the three that come to my mind are direct mail, like literally like paper mail,
right, old school,
email, and text message.
Okay, yeah. So email marketing, we do quite a bit of email marketing. We target our guests probably about once a week, depending on what the message is. Certainly if there's something that's more that is timely and needs to get out, we'll do it more often.
Are you segmenting?
Yes. We definitely segment by location. I'd like to get to be doing more segmenting based on things like, allergy and dietary preferences, things like that. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for us when it comes to email marketing. Email marketing is a tough thing because right now it's really about how good is your subject line. If your subject doesn't get them to open it, it doesn't matter what's inside.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I love SMS marketing, text or text message marketing, is because it has like a 90% open rate.
Yeah.
It's crazy, the open rate. Like if you're doing a 20% open rate with email, you're doing great.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so are you looking?
We're not doing text messaging
Yeah.
at this point. I go back and forth about it personally. I do think that it
can be a little
works,
intrusive.
but it's intrusive.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still of the thought process that my cell phone is my personal
Yeah,
phone.
especially
like,
when
I can't stand when people send me or email me or text me for like they've got my phone number from God knows where for a
Yeah.
work purpose. Then I'm really like, all right, you're really not talking to me.
And then you get that text when you're a block away. Weird.
Right. I mean, however, I will say that the marketing side of me
Yeah.
finds that completely
Yeah.
fascinating, and I love that idea. So I don't know what the future holds for us with regards to text messaging. There's certain parts of that I would like to explore and do more with.
Yeah.
We have an app, and if you sign up for our push notifications, we will send them.
So is that how you're building your email list? Is that the primary way?
It's interesting. It is our primary way. So everyone who downloads our app is part of our loyalty program, and our loyalty program is another thing that I wanted to mention is a really important part
Yeah,
of the
let's
mix
get
right
into
now. I think most companies, it's a hard thing right now because restaurants are really watching their dollars as we come upon kind of this who knows what's coming with the economy, right? A little bit of uncertainty. So trying to pull back in different ways, and more companies are pulling back on their loyalty program. They have people that have signed up and they're making noise about that, and they're seeing results, but they're making it more challenging to get the reward. And that has happened with, it's been in the news like crazy. I think Chick-fil-A just did it. Dunkin'
So
Donuts
you
has
sign
done
up,
it. Starbucks
bait
has done
and
it.
switch. Is that
Well,
kind of
no, it's not bait and switch. It's you sign up for the program and then they changed the
program.
terms.
Yeah.
And they're not changing it because you signed up. They're just changing
changing
it
because
because
the cost of
right,
everything's
'cause it's too
going up.
expensive for them to
And
continue.
again,
in
I
that
think it
way.
goes back to the consumer. It's like, chill the fuck out. Like, listen, like we live in a dynamic
Yeah.
world. Things change. What we can offer you today might not be what we could offer you yesterday.
Right.
And people need to understand that. Like, they feel so violated. It's like, do you live in a bubble? And most people do. It's called social media.
Right.
So I don't know. Like, anyway, I digress.
Well-
again. I go kind of crazy over this stuff sometimes.
No,
the more you
and
learn
it's
about marketing, the
important.
more it can drive you
I
crazy.
know.
Yeah.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
But the loyalty programs, that's a hard thing when you're inevitably you're going to make a change at some point to your program, making it stronger for the consumer or not, because they're going to get bored. So you're
Yeah.
going to have to switch it up.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of, it's a lot of it is perception. And then, I know as a consumer, if I sign up for a loyalty program and I'm excited to get this free item and then the terms change, well, for the worse for me,
It's a bad experience.
Right, it's a bad experience.
Yeah.
And then your loyalty to that company kind of goes down. So we have not
slippery
changed.
slope.
It is.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So we have not changed our loyalty program. In fact, we strengthened our loyalty program last year. We switched to a new program entirely, and
Can you share
we
that?
just so right now our program is you get $1 for every point that you spend. Wait a minute, you get a point for every $1 that you spend, and when you get to 25, you get a free a soda or bubbler fountain drink. When you get to 75, you get a free brownie, which brownies at honeygrow, if you've not had one, you're missing out.
Sold.
Oh my God, they're so good. And then when you get to 125, then you get a free stir fry or salad.
So that's
it's-
like 10% essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So it's actually a little more. It can go up to, I think it's $13 value. So so it's a decent it's a decent program, and it's much more lucrative for the guest than many of our competitors are. So that's a big deal for us, is our loyalty program and strengthening that. So we're constantly building our email program by way of our loyalty program. Signing up for our loyalty program, you're opting into signing up for our loyalty, you opt into our email.
So what is your point of sale? Because it's not obvious when you look at the interface, but is it behind the scenes? Is it a more commonly known point of sale? Like, is your interface tied to like a Toast or?
Oh,
like a,
I see what you're saying. Yes,
Okay.
it
Is
is.
it Toast?
It's Toast.
So are you using the Toast loyalty?
No, we're
platform?
not.
What are you using?
We use a program called Punch.
Punch. Why Punch?
That was a program that was selected before I started. Right
I've heard
before
good things
I
about
started.
Punch.
Yeah, it is a good program. So the loyalty side of it has a lot of good analysis features. It works. It integrates with Toast, which is great. So we're able to pull a lot of data that way. We also it has an email component also built into it. So it's like a one-stop shop. And we use Olo for catering, and so it pulls in some of that data as well, or it can. I'm not the tech person. I'm not the IT person. I just make it
but
happen.
that's also marketing. It's so all over the place
yeah,
right now, which
so-
is why, like, if you're an independent restaurant operator and like you're trying to manage all this back end stuff, and like it's so
Oh my gosh,
overwhelming.
it is. My first couple of weeks at honeygrow, I was like, holy cow, there are so many platforms. I don't know what I'm looking at for what. So there's certainly a lot of systems that are all working together in order to give us these results. But Punch does a good job of giving us dashboard results that we're able to quickly see what's happening.
I like to echo the mission statement here a lot. It's intentional, but to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. And I think it's the referring tools and services I think is truly empowering, because when you have so much that's out there and so many people trying to sell what they have to you, like, how do you know, like, the anxiety associated with making the right purchasing decision as a restaurateur? It must be so outrageous. I mean, I've never experienced it, but thinking about it gives me anxiety.
Well, for sure.
So, like, just hopefully, like, just through this, like, word of mouth is the most trusted form of marketing to this day. It's the most organic. It's the oldest, and I think it's the most trusted. So I like to get the referrals. So thank you for being willing to share some of these tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And it is a big deal. I mean, as we're looking into, we're constantly trying to come up with new solutions, better solutions, challenge ourselves to be more efficient and things like that. And so we're always looking at what other products are out there and how to do a better job and to drive better results. So, but they all come with a price, and I can only imagine as, a single restaurant, an entrepreneur just starting out and looking at all these prices, it must make someone's head want to explode.
So I've been saving it for the end because I knew that we could probably get lost in this, and I want to make sure other stuff came out first before it came in an entire conversation about social media. So as it looks today, like, what is your social media strategy? Like, what's working for you guys?
So we use Instagram as our primary vehicle.
Why?
It is the best way to showcase food. There's the most interest among users. That's the vehicle where we're seeing the most users interested in food. You have the ability to do a static image, or you can do a reel. We want to be able to, add some comments about what's in this food. It has decent targeting capabilities if we want to place an ad that way. Stories are great for quick, timely messages and things like that. So Instagram just is, I would argue, although I don't know that this is 100% true, the most widely used social media platform right now. Facebook is probably it's probably equal or slightly behind that, in my guess.
I think the demographic spread, like the older individuals are tending to lean towards Facebook, and the middle is Instagram and like cross-platform, and then the younger probably offset the older on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And then there's TikTok.
Yes.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started with TikTok. I'm trying to. We're in a learning mode right now, not opinion sharing mode. Keep going.
I mean, I think TikTok is a place to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Shannon, our digital marketing coordinator, she's very creative, and she comes up with these really funny things, and I love seeing what she's going to put up there. I mean, it makes me laugh. But we're truthfully, we're still trying to figure out how to make TikTok work for us, and how to,
while maintaining your sense of pride.
Right. I mean, we are, but again, there's that creative word, and that's part of who we are, and part of what we want to communicate is through, our food, and It's creative. It's fun. I mean, it is stir fry salads and honey bar, people. This is not rocket science. Like, let's relax and have some fun. And so that's where we get to do it. And so we have a lot of fun on TikTok doing goofy different things. Then on Instagram, we also, we have a really, we do have a good time. There's definitely humor that's part of the brand. And so we try to get that to come out in all aspects of social media.
We just recently had somebody on the show, Tom Sterner, who's an expert in the subject of just mindfulness and just being self-aware and directing your inner voice, like quieting the inner voice so your consciousness can override and not be stressed out and anxiety filled all the time. I think when it comes to social media, I think it's good just to remind yourself, like, I can choose to have fun with this. And I try to do this sometimes. Like, when I have to do things, I'm just like, just go with it, have fun. Like, you don't have to be stressed out that it's time to do the social media thing.
Right. Exactly. And the other thing is a lot of social media is throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And that's how you learn what's working and what's not. So, there is absolutely the creative side and the having fun and showing these beautiful noodle pools and showing the integrity of the product and the craveability and all of that. And that you just want to rush in and get a stir fry. But there's also the back end data of it, which, that's where I have to focus my attention now, where, Shannon, and she also is working closely with all of the data, but she's having fun creating all of these different TikToks and
you're trying to find out
what
works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and she is too. I want to give her that credit because she's very diligent about that. But it's reporting, constantly looking at the reporting of how many likes, how many shares, how many comments, what's that engagement
So what
number
is
look
working?
like? We know that our noodle pools are doing really, really well.
Noodle pool in the park, noodle pool in front of a dog, noodle pool at the gym.
Right. I mean, people really love to see the noodle pools.
Can you teach me how to do the noodle pool?
I can.
Maybe we can get some social media
All
noodle
right.
pool.
We'll do some noodle pools.
Keep going.
They are so yeah. The noodle pools work really well for us. Justin and some of our GMs will do a walk off to see who creates the better stir fry. That always does really well.
Oh, I was like walking. I was like, oh,
No,
the walk. Yeah, got
like
it. W-O-K.
Cooking, W-O-K. So that's a lot of fun too, and I think that's also people like that because they like to see what we're making and things like that, competition. But it also shows how truly into it Justin is. Like, I tell you, I will go. He and I a couple weeks ago went out to a restaurant and the restaurant was slammed, and we were just going to visit different restaurants, and all of a sudden he was like, I gotta jump back there, and he is back there cooking, and I'm working in front of the house making sure that everybody's okay, and as the line is growing. And that's just, that's who we are, that's what we do. You do whatever it takes all the time. So I think it's cool for people to understand who it is behind this brand, that Justin is that down to earth and that involved in the day-to-day, where he knows every single manager.
What about collaborations?
So we on social or as a brand?
Well, how's it different?
So on social, we
so as a brand, you like outsourcing for like a certain
for a dish,
like working with a farm. Is that what you mean? By
working with a farm. We do a lot of collaborations with local Philadelphia area chefs. Justin is super tied in with the chef network here in Philadelphia, and so he will, he has a couple of friends that are, maybe have a specific type of a restaurant, and we'll see if we can work together and use their products if it seems like it's a fit for menu items.
Or like even collaborating with like a chef and like having their like hitching your bandwagon to their creativity and like using their recognition and their brand to slingshot and hurl your brand forward, promoting each other.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing, certainly happens both ways.
Yeah.
Quite often. And we, there's, different special events and stuff like that where, maybe Justin and one of his friends that is a chef, they kind of put their heads together and come up with something kind of cool that they can showcase at a special event, things like that. So there's a lot of collaboration that way. Obviously, we get a lot of food from local purveyors and things like that, but that's less of a collaboration, I think, is more of a purchase sort of a situation, a vendor situation. But then on social media, we work a lot with influencers. I think that is really the key to growing the brand.
That was my next question. So, that was going to be the last question around social media I asked before we started to wrap things up. So, perfect timing. So, what is your influencer strategy with social media?
So, at the moment, we really work closely with micro-influencers. That's where we're finding.
What's considered a micro-influencer?
Micro-influencer is an influencer that has a decent following, but not huge following. So they're pretty hyper-local, which is important for us.
Is that subjective? What's a decent following?
I would say maybe under 5,000.
Okay.
And that's, yes, it's subjective, but that's where I kind of put it. So I
right
think
around 5,000.
Yeah.
More than 1,000, less than 5,000.
Right. Yeah, definitely more than 1,000.
Yeah.
But the problem with influencers when you are a more regional brand is that you need to make sure that their following, the influencers following, also is in that same footprint.
Yeah. If it's a bunch of pizza and burgers, is that going to fly for your target market?
Well, it's not even that. It's that we want to make sure that the people who are following, you're from New Hampshire. We do not have a location in New Hampshire. If you are an influencer and most of your social media followers are based in New Hampshire, you're not going to make sense for us.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I mean by making sure that the influencer and their followers are local to our market.
The quality of the audience, not the quantity.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where, we work a lot with micro-influencers. We work with, a lot. Sometimes they're college students. College students do an amazing job with social media.
Yeah.
They're super creative and they have a lot of fun. They have the time to do it, and that's their world. That's all they know, with technology. So, getting them to get.
This is where the intern comes in.
Yeah. So working with social media or with college kids for influencers, and a lot of them have good followings, but they're located on a college campus where hopefully there is a honeygrow also, and that would make a lot of sense for us.
How do you find college influencers on a college campus near one of the honeygrows you're opening?
Yeah, it is very tedious, and you can use different programs where you can, if you're willing to pay a larger price. And right now we don't do a lot of paid. We do a lot of trade.
Yeah. What does that look like?
Where we'll give a few gift cards or a certain amount of money in honeygrow dollars.
We'll promote for food.
Yeah, exactly. And
college
and a lot do, sure. But and influencers that are getting themselves off the ground and things like that. And so but that seems to be working very well for us. There will certainly come a time where we're going to want to make that bigger, and we'll have to move into a more of a paid play. And if when that time comes,
this is comes. Honestly, sorry, I cut you short. Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, that was it. Just we're not there yet, and we do like to make it as authentic as possible. So we do some cross-referencing between who are. It's a very tedious process in going through to figure out who those influencers are, and then we find out if those influencers are fans of honeygrow. And more often than not, we will only work with an influencer who is a fan of honeygrow, because we do want it to be authentic.
So have you tried paid influencing?
We have with one who we do know is a very big fan of honeygrow. So that person was coming in anyway.
Yeah.
We just paid for more exposure.
Got it. I mean, it gets kind of weird with the paid, because it's like we got to this point, is social media really social, or is it it's not social media anymore?
No, I mean, look at your Instagram feed and tell me the last time that you saw something posted by one of your friends.
Well, here's the thing. I will admit that when I have the app on my phone, when I'm on the road, I download the app, because I feel like people try to reach out to me. They see, Sam's going crazy posting stuff, and I kind of feel like I need to be plugged in. But when I'm home, I delete that shit. I don't want it on my phone. I don't want, because I have horrible ADHD. I don't need something that's designed to distract me. I am so vulnerable to that. And I recognize it, and I try to get it off my phone because I just know all the reasons why it's not a good thing. But the other thing is, like, yeah, because my social media is literally only exists because of my business, that, like, everything I see is a pitch. And I know enough about marketing and social media to see right through all of it.
Right.
You know, so I don't see a social experience. I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And for me, it just drives me crazy sometimes.
Right.
Like, I just start ranting after
I
a few
totally agree with you, and
Yeah.
just probably crazy to hear from a marketer. I only look at social media for work.
So, I mean, we usually wrap up the conversation based off of, like, where is the industry today? What's the world we live in, the ecosystem? Again, echoing the mission statement: inspire, empower, transform the industry. I do believe if we transform the industry, we will influence the rest of the world. So, along that vein, along that note, what would you like to see as far as transformation?
I love what you said at the beginning about, you know, everyone, all of these restaurants getting together and being able to figure out a way to, you know, buy local, keep it cost conscious, and kind of do right for everyone, because I think that would be a better experience for restaurateurs, but also for the customer. And, you know, I think at the end of the day,
And the community, too.
yeah, for sure. At the end of the day, we're all customers. And I think that's one of the things to keep top of mind. And I remind myself of that all the time, that we're selling food, a meal, we're marketing to different groups, but at the end of the day, we're all customers. I buy from other restaurants, other, you know, people buy from us, and just trying to figure out how to make it the best experience for everyone. And, you know, even with so many health concerns that this world has, and how do we make it healthier? Do we need to be adding all this extra stuff all the time? And, you know, food should taste great in its most natural state. And let's figure out a way to do that and help the youth be healthy, help the elderly live longer. You know, I mean, there's so much that we have the ability to do in this industry for one another that I love, you know, and I really hadn't thought a ton about that until you said it, but I love that whole philosophy.
You think about food, most of the things we put in our body are organic, right? They were once living. So, like, we're like, the food and restaurant industry is tied to singularity life, you know, and I think we forget how much influence. I mean, I hate the word influencer, but collectively, the restaurant industry, chefs, restaurateurs, people look up to these individuals. You know, we're educators, we're influencers. We influence our employees, you know, to march to our values and to join our vision. And we work with the youngest professionals out there. So we can literally, to your point, like, we can help young people, whether it's like giving them values, or, like, I know from your perspective, we're talking about eating habits, right? And old people, helping them live longer, right? But we just have so much influence, and I think it's so inspiring.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This has been a lot of fun. We're back. The first question I have for you is, what is your it factor, a habit, a trait, a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success, a strength?
Drive.
What is your biggest weakness?
Distractions.
Right? How are you overcoming that?
Drive.
Not using social media when you're not at work. What is one question you ask or thing you look for during the interview process when you're growing your team?
Personality.
What is your biggest challenge today?
Managing an enormous amount of projects of equal weight.
And how are you overcoming that?
Trying to prioritize with the goals of the company.
What is one code of conduct, a core value you teach with your team?
Charity.
Charity? I love it. This is more of a restaurant tour geared question, I think, but what is one uncommon standard of service you teach your team? A way to go above and beyond, how to, you know, exceed what the guest expectation, but maybe you might, being a part of the team, you might know the answer to that.
treating every single guest like an individual through things like responding to every single social media comment and every DM.
Customization.
Yeah.
I love that. What is one book that's a must-read to make a better person or restaurant owner? And this, I feel like marketing, you should have a lot.
I mean, the number one book that I have read and I still reference today, even though it's ages old, is Why We Buy.
Ooh. It's kind of similar to Start With Why, but I haven't heard that one. Who's the author?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I cannot remember. Paco something or other.
I'll look it up while you're answering the questions. Next question is, well, I'm all over the place now, my notes. What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do well enough or often enough?
I think depending on the size of the company, I'm not sure that they don't do well enough or often enough, but my recommendation would be to be in the restaurants, doing the cooking, living it, and experience what your employees are experiencing.
I agree with that. Which just makes scaling hard.
Yeah, it does, but it
Yeah.
can make you find opportunities to be more efficient and
True.
how to hold on to your talent for longer.
True. What is one piece of technology you've recently adopted in terms of marketing that's had a huge impact on communication, profitability, I guess marketing in general, exposure, impressions, whatever you want to call it? What comes to mind?
I would say our loyalty program through Punch, with just the amount of information that you can get out of it, has made us much more efficient.
What information do you like the most?
Oh God, I love data. I think frequency and value of our loyalty guests versus non-loyalty is really important as we move forward.
Got it. And this is the last question. We've made it to the end. Congratulations. You were
Thank
great,
you.
by the way. I really enjoyed today's I really pushed you, too. You did a great job. If you get the news that you're leaving this world tomorrow, all the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants, and your contribution to those restaurants is lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you can leave behind for the good of humanity and for your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
I would say that you work to live and don't live to work.
1.
Never go to bed in an argument. Never
2.
fall asleep in an argument. And make sure that you always let people know how appreciated they are.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed today's conversation. The name of that author is Paco Underhill.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll
Thank
link
you
to
for
that.
looking that up.
No, of course. This is episode 990. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/990. We'll have a summary of today's discussion over there, as well as any links to tools or services recommended during today's chat and how to connect with you. I almost forgot to ask you what is the best way to connect. And I almost forgot to ask you to call somebody out, too. I'm all over the place right now. Sorry. So that's a lot. I just hit you with a lot. So we'll start with, who do you respect and admire in the industry? Somebody who is just super impressive that if they were a guest on the show, you would absolutely tune in.
Oh, geez. I would probably say Justin, and I don't think that you've had the chance to speak with
No.
him yet, but
But he actually recommended you to me because I came to town.
see that.
So Eli Culp,
He's
he
amazing.
referred me to Justin.
Okay.
Justin didn't get much of a heads up that I was coming to town. He wasn't available, but he's like, hey, I mean, if you're going to be in town, you got to talk to Amy. Amy's who I'm calling out. So I was like, all right, Amy sounds great. And we do need more C-level specialists on the show to really drill down and get those detailed pieces of advice, which you did great for us today. So thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. But yeah, I do think that Justin would be a great person. He's very unique in his approach, and I can tell you, as part of his direct reports, that he doesn't ever make you feel like you're a direct report. And I think that that's a really important management style, and part of the reason why the business has been so successful and has such a strong growth trajectory.
Got it. And is there a way to connect with you, LinkedIn or email,
LinkedIn.
if people have questions or maybe they want to come work with you?
Sure. I guess LinkedIn would probably be the best way. I can give emails too if you want.
Sure.
So,
Drop your email with us.
my email is A DePaoli at honeygrow.com, or
The DePaoli is spelled. I know I wrote
D as,
D-E. Sorry, go ahead.
D as in dog, E, P as in Paul, AOLI.
Got it. And this is where I say thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
There is no questioning, Amy. You are unstoppable. Well done. Thank you so much.